AITA for refusing to let my brother's family stay with me after they trashed my house during their last visit. I'm a 34-year-old woman living alone in a small but comfortable suburban home that I bought 5 years ago. I'm not married, no kids, pretty introverted, and my house is my safe place. I work remotely, keep to myself, and try to keep my environment calm and predictable. My older brother, Mark, is the opposite. He's loud, messy, spur of the moment, and seems to think that everyone else should adjust to his lifestyle. He and his wife have 3 kids under 10. I love them, but they're little tornadoes. About a year and a half ago, Mark asked if his family could stay with me for 4 days while their house was being fumigated. I hesitated because I know how chaotic things can get with them, but he guilt-tripped me hard, saying I never help with anything family-related. I eventually gave in. I cleaned my entire house before they came. I stocked snacks, bought a few kid-friendly things, moved fragile items out of reach, and tried to mentally prepare. Within an hour of them arriving, every single boundary I set was blown apart. The kids treated my living room like a trampoline park, even though I repeatedly said no jumping on the furniture. His youngest managed to rip the side of my recliner because she was climbing a mountain. They spilled juice on my white rug and didn't tell me until it had already dried into a questionable stain. My sister-in-law left open containers of food on my counters, attracting ants within a day. Mark brought his dog, even though I specifically said I couldn't host pets because of allergies. He brushed it off by saying the dog was hypoallergenic, which it wasn't, as I spent the whole visit sneezing and dosing myself with antihistamines. On the second day, I walked into the guest room they were using and found my niece coloring with markers directly on my hardwood floor. When I yelled in shock, my brother got defensive and said I was being dramatic. Meanwhile, I was on my hands and knees scrubbing out neon green streaks that are still faintly visible. And the kids kept going into my office, even though I told them it was off limits because of expensive equipment. One of them knocked over my ring light, shattering it. By the time they left, my house looked like a disaster zone. The recliner was damaged, the rug stained, various surfaces sticky, several decor items broken, and my dishwasher clogged because they crammed a bunch of greasy utensils into it without rinsing anything. I spent an entire weekend cleaning, repairing, and replacing items. I sent Mark a breakdown of the damages and politely asked if they could help cover the costs. He flipped out and said I was acting like he destroyed a museum. He claimed kids are kids and that I should have expected this. He ended up sending me nothing. I decided after that experience that I would never host them again. I didn't say anything outright, but I quietly made that rule for myself. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. Mark calls me in a panic because his in-laws are coming to stay with them for a while, and they apparently have nowhere to put them. He asked if they could stay with me for no more than a week. I said no immediately. He acted stunned and asked why I was being so cold. I told him the truth. I wasn't comfortable hosting anyone anymore after how their last day went, especially people I don't even know. He got quiet, then angry. He said I should let that go because it was a long time ago. I reminded him he never paid for the damages. He claimed I blindsided him with that back then and that he shouldn't have to pay for normal family chaos. I told him it wasn't normal and that he never respected my boundaries. He hung up on me. Since then, he's been texting me guilt trips. Things like, family helps family, and you're really okay letting your brother struggle like this? My mother, who tries to keep the peace, told me I should consider letting them stay just a few nights because refusing makes me look selfish. But she wasn't the one who had a clean marker off the floors at midnight. The only person who agrees with me is my cousin, who said hosting Mark's family is like hosting a hurricane with opinions. But now the rest of the family is giving me the cold shoulder. Mark's wife even posted some passive-aggressive quote online about people who forget their roots when they get a little comfort. I know it was about me because she used a photo of a house that looks suspiciously like mine. I tried explaining my side again in a family group chat, but everyone just told me I'm being dramatic and holding grudges. They're acting like I'm the villain for not sacrificing my space again. I'm exhausted just thinking about having house guests, let alone ones I barely know. I don't think it's fair that I'm expected to put my peace, my property, and my sanity at risk because Mark refuses to plan ahead or consider other options. He could ask his in-laws to get a short-term rental, stay in a hotel, or even stay with our parents, who have an empty basement. But apparently I'm the only acceptable solution because my house is nice and I live alone, which according to Mark means I don't need boundaries. I genuinely don't know if I'm being unreasonable. Part of me worries that maybe family really should help even when it's inconvenient. But another part of me thinks I already tried helping once and paid the price for it. My home is the only place where I feel fully comfortable, and I don't want to go through another week of chaos, damage, and being treated like a doormat. So, AITA for refusing to let them stay after what happened last time. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister move into the house I inherited from our parents and charging her market rent when she tried to guilt-trip me. I'm 33 and my sister, Lila, is 29. Last year, our parents passed away in a car accident. It was sudden and devastating. They left behind the house we grew up in, a not huge but charming two-story place in a decent neighborhood. In the will, the house was left specifically to me. Not a joint inheritance, not a shared arrangement. My parents had talked to both of us about this before, and the reason was practical. I lived 10 minutes away and visited all the time, while Lila had moved several states away and only visited for holidays, sometimes skipping those too. They felt that I was the one who would actually care for the house and keep it in the family. After their passing, Lila initially didn't say anything about the house. She helped with the funeral arrangements, cried with me, and went home. We kept in touch. Then, about 4 months later, she lost her job. She called me crying, overwhelmed, saying she couldn't afford her apartment anymore, and asked if she could come home just for a little while. I told her we'd figure something out. At first, I assumed she meant staying with me in my apartment. I have a spare room, but she kept talking about coming home, and eventually it became clear she meant the house. Our parents' house. The house that the will said was mine. I told her straight, if you need a place to stay, of course you can stay with me. But I'm not ready for anyone to move into the house yet. I'm still dealing with their things. It's still emotionally heavy for me. That was the truth. Walking inside that house still made my chest tighten. I've been taking it slow, sorting their belongings one room at a time. Lila immediately got defensive. She said the house was our childhood home and meant for both of us, and that it made more sense for her to live there than for me to let it sit empty. I reminded her of the will. She rolled her eyes and said parents don't really mean that kind of thing. They just divide stuff up to make probate easier. This annoyed me, but I tried to stay calm. I told her that I understood she was in a rough situation and she could absolutely stay with me, rent-free, until she got back on her feet. But she insisted she needed her space and that my apartment felt too much like a guest room and not like home. Over the next week, she sent me messages shifting between guilt, nostalgia, and outright pressure. Mom and Dad would want us to share. I can't believe you're being territorial about something that belongs to the family. You're lucky you have your life together. Some of us actually need help. Eventually, she said, fine, if I can't live there for free, can I at least rent it from you while I figure things out? This seemed fair, in theory. I wasn't opposed, but she demanded rent well below the market rate, like less than half. And she wanted me to handle all maintenance while she paid basically a symbolic amount. I told her gently but firmly that if she wanted to rent the house, it would have to be at a reasonable rate. Not higher than market, not gouging, just the average for our area. I explained that I still had to pay property taxes, insurance, upkeep, and the mortgage wasn't fully paid off. I also pointed out that I would still be letting her move in before I was emotionally ready to change the house from my parents' preserved space into someone else's residence. She exploded. She accused me of profiting from our parents' death. She said, you already have your apartment. You already have your job. You don't need the house. I do. You're being cruel. She even said I was no better than a landlord who jacks up rent on family. I finally told her no. She could live with me for free, for months if she needed. But the house was not an option right now, and if she insisted on renting it, the rent would be fair market, period. She blocked me for 2 weeks. Then our aunt called, saying Lila had told the family I was taking advantage of her in her most vulnerable moment. I explained everything. Our aunt was sympathetic, but suggested I be compassionate since Lila was struggling. I said compassion is offering my home and supporting her without asking for a cent, something Lila ignored because she wanted the house specifically. Eventually, Lila unblocked me. She sent a long message saying she was disappointed in me, that she felt unwelcome, and that she didn't recognize the brother she'd grown up with. She said the house was the last thing connecting her to our parents and that I was gatekeeping grief. I didn't respond right away. A couple days later, she texted again, this time more neutral, saying she was moving in with a friend temporarily. That was months ago. She's working again. We've spoken a few times, but it's distant now. Some relatives think I was right. Some think I should have put family first and let her live there cheaply because blood is blood. I keep wondering if I should have just given in, even though it felt wrong. So now I'm stuck replaying all of this and wondering if I was the unreasonable one for holding boundaries during a rough time. AITA for not letting my sister live in the house her parents left me and insisting on market rent if she wanted to stay there. AITA for refusing to pretend my sister's baby is also my child for the sake of her elaborate family fantasy. I never thought I'd be the person posting something like this, but here we are. I'm a 32-year-old guy with no kids and no real interest in becoming a parent. My sister, Lila, is 35 and has wanted a big family her whole life. She struggled with infertility for years, went through multiple rounds of IVF, and finally had a baby girl last year. Everyone was thrilled for her. I truly love my niece. I bring her little toys. I carry her around family cookouts. I babysit occasionally even though I'm not really a kid person. But Lila has started something that I genuinely cannot get behind, and it has turned into a full-blown conflict. It started small. When my niece was a few months old, Lila would jokingly call me her second daddy. I thought she meant like the fun uncle thing, like how people call an aunt the bonus mom. I laughed it off. It didn't feel serious. But over time, the joke evolved, then mutated, then grew 3 extra limbs. One day at brunch with our parents, Lila proudly told the server he's basically her other dad and nodded at me. The server congratulated me, and I corrected her politely, and Lila gave me a sharp look. After the server walked away, she said, "You don't have to embarrass me like that." Embarrass? By telling the truth? I thought it was just her being emotional. But things escalated when she started making elaborate social media posts describing how her daughter has 2 dads and a mom, and tagging me every time. My notifications were blowing up with people congratulating me or messaging things like, "I didn't know you adopted with your sister. That's so progressive." I untagged myself the first couple times, but then she got angry about that too. She said, "I want her to grow up surrounded by love. A child can never have too many parents." I said, "But I'm not her parent. I'm her uncle. I'm fine with being the uncle." She said I was being narrow-minded and selfish, and that family is what you choose, which sure is a nice sentiment, except she was choosing me for a role I absolutely did not volunteer for. Fast forward to last month when my niece turned 1. Lila had a big birthday party planned. She assigned roles for everyone, apparently to match some theme involving a storybook-style village of parents. Yes, really. My parents were elders of wisdom. Her best friend was keeper of joy. Lila's husband, Tom, was father of courage. And me? I was designated father of devotion. I told her I wasn't doing that. She acted shocked, as if this was the first time I had ever objected to the whole thing. She said it was important for her daughter's development to normalize diverse family structures. I said I fully support diverse families, but supporting them doesn't magically turn me into another child's father. This became a screaming match. Tom tried to calm her down, but Lila was crying, saying I was rejecting her and rejecting her daughter. Then she accused me of being jealous of her happiness. It was absurd. I went home early. A week later, my mom called and said Lila was deeply hurt and that I should apologize. I said, "Apologize for what?" for not pretending to be a parent. My mom said that Lila has been through a lot and that I should be more flexible and compassionate. I said I am compassionate. I'm just not playing dad in a fantasy. Then comes last weekend. My parents hosted a barbecue. I showed up, and the moment I walked in, Lila handed me a baby carrier and said, "Here, dad number 2, take her," loud enough that everyone heard. I put the carrier down gently and told her, "Enough. This has to stop." She told me I was ruining the atmosphere and traumatizing her daughter. Traumatizing. The child is one. I told her that if she didn't stop telling people I was her child's father, I would simply stop attending events where she and the baby were present. It wasn't a threat, it was a boundary. A last resort one. The entire yard went silent. Lila stormed inside. Tom followed her. About 10 minutes later, my dad came out and told me I should apologize for escalating things. I said, all I did was set a boundary. He said, "But you know how fragile she is about motherhood." I said, "Yes, and that's exactly why this isn't healthy." Later that night, she texted me a long message saying I'm emotionally abandoning my niece and undermining her maternal identity. She ended it with, "I thought you loved her." I didn't respond, and she hasn't spoken to me since. Tom texted, separately apologizing for her outburst, but said she's in a delicate place emotionally and hopes I'll reconsider participating in her vision of family. Her vision of family. As if I'm a character in her novel. My parents now think I should just go along with it for the peace of the family. My friends all think this is unhinged and that I should run for the hills. I keep questioning myself, though. I know how hard her fertility journey was. I know how desperately she wanted to be a mom. I know she genuinely believes she's doing something good for her daughter, and I don't want to hurt anyone. But I also cannot, in good conscience, pretend to be a parent when I'm not. I don't want a child, and calling me a father, especially publicly, feels like an identity being forced on me. It makes me uncomfortable and, honestly, a little violated. I didn't think boundaries like "don't assign me children I don't have" were controversial. Still, everyone in my family is acting like I'm the one being rigid and dramatic. They say it wouldn't cost me anything to play along for her emotional well-being, but it cost me my autonomy, my identity, my clarity about my own life choices. And I'm not sure that's a small cost. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister use my wedding as a test run for her dream proposal, even though she says I'm ruining her chance at happiness. So I'm 29F, getting married in December to my longtime partner, 31M. We've been together 8 years, and planning this wedding has taken every ounce of free time, energy, and money we've saved. It's not extravagant, but it's meaningful to us. A medium-sized ceremony at a historic venue that we booked 2 years ago because it's notoriously hard to reserve. My fiancé and I paid for almost everything ourselves except for a few contributions from my parents. Enter my sister, 26F. I'll call her Tara. Tara has been dating her boyfriend, 27M, for about 7 months. She is deeply infatuated with him. In fairness, he does seem like a good guy, but the relationship is still very new. Despite that, Tara has been practically vibrating with anticipation that he'll propose any minute. I have no idea where she got this idea, because from what I've observed, he doesn't seem rushed at all. They seem happy, but normal happy, not secretly engagement planning happy. Around 3 weeks ago, Tara asked if I had time to go over something wedding-related. I assumed it was about her bridesmaid dress. Instead, she sat me down in my own living room and said she wanted to talk about a magical moment. She told me she wants her boyfriend to propose to her at my wedding. Not before the ceremony. Not after. She wants him to propose to her during our reception, on the dance floor, during a moment when the love in the room is the strongest. Her words, not mine. I laughed at first because I thought she was joking. Nope. She was dead serious. She had Pinterest boards. She had playlists. She had ideas for lighting. She even had a speech drafted for him in case he wasn't good with spur-of-the-moment words. I told her absolutely not. That this was my wedding, not a backdrop for a love story. She immediately got moody and accused me of gatekeeping romance. But it didn't end there. A few days later, she came back with a new pitch. She said she'd made a deal with her boyfriend. He told her he's not ready to propose yet, but she believes if she can show him how perfect a proposal moment could be, he might change his mind sooner. So she asked if she could stage a fake proposal at my wedding. Not an actual proposal, a rehearsal for her boyfriend. She wanted him to kneel with a placeholder ring so that he could visualize their future in front of all my guests. At my reception, using my photographer, I told her she had officially lost her mind. I said that not only is this wildly inappropriate, but if someone fake proposed to her in front of a crowd expecting a real engagement, people would be emotional and confused, and then when they found out it was fake, the whole room would get weird. And I'd spend my wedding night dealing with the fallout. She countered that it wouldn't be confusing if she made a little speech beforehand, explaining that it was a practice moment. A practice moment. At my wedding. I told her again, firmly and clearly no. She immediately burst into tears and said she feels unsupported by her family, that she's finally found her soulmate, and I should be excited for her. She told me I'm being selfish by hogging all the romantic energy for myself. She also said something truly baffling. Weddings generate proposal momentum. Why wouldn't you share? My fiancé was in the kitchen listening to all this, and even he, the least confrontational person alive, shouted no. What is wrong with you? Tara stormed out of my house. Now here's where things escalate. My mom called me that night, saying Tara is devastated and crying in her childhood room like she's 12 again. Mom asked if I could meet her halfway. When I asked what halfway meant, she said maybe we could set aside a small window during the reception for Tara to feel special. I told her absolutely not. But my mom kept pushing, saying weddings are about family and togetherness and creating memories. I told her yes, but they are primarily about the couple getting married, and I wasn't donating a chunk of my own wedding to my sister's fantasy rehearsal. My dad is on my side, but he avoids conflict like the plague and suggested we let your sister cool off. Spoiler, she has not cooled off. Instead, she went behind my back to some of my bridesmaids and told them I forbade her from celebrating her love and that I'm punishing her for being younger and moving faster in life. Thankfully, my friends all know me well and immediately texted me screenshots of the group chat. Then last weekend, Tara's boyfriend pulled me aside at a family barbecue and apologized. He said he didn't know she was asking me all this, and he absolutely does not want to propose at my wedding or fake propose or do anything like that. He said he loves my sister, but she gets laser-focused on things and loses perspective. He said he'd talk to her. Well, that talk did not go well because Tara called me later and accused me of turning her boyfriend against her. She said I am jealous that she might have a magical moment inside my magical moment and that I live for drama. My own sister genuinely believes I'm sabotaging her. Now my mom is begging me to apologize just to smooth things over because Tara is threatening not to attend the wedding at all. I told my mom that while I would be sad if my sister didn't come, I wasn't bending on this. My mom said I was choosing a party over family. But it's not a party. It's my wedding. Some relatives have now chimed in on Facebook in vague, passive-aggressive posts about people who don't let others shine. Tara has been liking them. My fiancé says he fully supports me, but worries this drama will overshadow our actual day. I don't want to fight with my sister. I love her, but what she's asking is absurd. I'm not letting her run a proposal workshop at my wedding like it's some kind of live romance seminar. Still, with all the family guilt and Tara's meltdown, part of me is wondering if I'm being colder than I think. AITA for refusing to let my sister use my wedding to stage a fake proposal? AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé use my late wife's wedding dress, even though the whole family insists it would be a beautiful gesture. My wife, Mara, passed away 3 years ago after a long fight with an autoimmune condition. We had been together since college, married for 12 years, and her wedding dress was the one thing she specifically asked me to keep safe for our daughter, who was 8 when she died. Mara came from a family where heirlooms mattered. Her dress had been hand-sewn by her grandmother and had little embroidered symbols that meant things only Mara ever fully remembered the stories behind. When she was in hospice, she asked me to make sure our daughter, Lily, got the dress someday, whether for her own wedding or just to keep. I promised her I would. Fast forward to now, my younger brother, Sam, got engaged last year to a woman named Tessa. She's vibrant and loud and a little dramatic, but she makes Sam happy. The issue started about 3 months ago when they were visiting my house. Somehow, they ended up in the guest room where I keep storage bins, and one of the bins had the garment bag with Mara's dress inside. I hadn't hidden it. I just never thought anyone would go rummaging around. Later that night, Tessa approached me with this look of breathless excitement and said she had tried on the dress. I was stunned she even opened the bag, let alone tried it on. She said she instantly felt connected to the women of our family. I reminded her gently that it wasn't her family. The dress was Mara's and was meant for our daughter one day. She brushed it off and said that made it even more meaningful because it symbolized continuing love after loss. I thought that was the end of it, but apparently she had taken pictures of herself in the dress and showed them to Sam, to my parents, to our cousins, basically everyone. Suddenly, I was flooded with messages from family members saying how fitting it would be for the dress to be worn again. My mom said it would be healing for me. My aunt said it would be an honor to Mara. My cousin said it would help Lily move on by seeing love thrive. I kept saying no, repeatedly, firmly, but politely. Yet every time I said no, someone else tried to convince me. My dad called 2 weeks ago and said I was being stubborn because I didn't want to accept that Mara was gone. My mom said I was being selfish and that the dress was wasting away in a box. Even Sam, who used to be my closest confidant, said that I should consider that Tessa was trying to include Mara's memory in the wedding, not erase it. Here is where things escalated. Last month, Lily, now 11, came to me crying because Tessa had told her that grown-ups need to share beautiful things and that you don't need the dress right now, sweetie, but I do. Lily told me she felt like Tessa was trying to take something that belonged to her mom. She asked me if she had done something wrong to make Tessa mad. I was furious. I confronted Tessa and told her in no uncertain terms that she was not to involve my daughter in any discussion about the dress. She burst into tears and claimed I was attacking her for wanting to feel connected. After that blow-up, I took the dress to a safety deposit box at the bank so no one could access it. When my parents found out, they said I was being dramatic. Sam called and told me that since I escalated things, he expected an apology from me to Tessa for yelling at her. I refused. I said they all needed to respect Mara's wishes and my daughter's feelings. Last weekend, we had a big family dinner at my parents' house where everything came to a boiling point. Tessa made an announcement that she had decided on a different dress for the sake of family harmony. Everyone applauded her, as though she was some kind of martyr. Then she turned to me and said she hoped I had finally learned how to let go. Lily grabbed my hand and looked terrified, so we left early. When we got home, my mom sent me a long message about how my behavior had been divisive and cruel, and that the dress would have been in good hands. She said the only reason people were upset with me was because I was turning grief into a weapon to shut people out. I told her that grief isn't a weapon, it's a responsibility. I promised Mara I would keep the dress for our daughter. That isn't something I take lightly. Now, though, I'm wondering if I handled things poorly. Maybe I should have explained my reasoning more gently. Maybe I should have shut down the situation earlier instead of letting it fester. Maybe moving the dress to the bank was too much. Lily is watching all of this, and I don't want her to think our family is falling apart over a piece of fabric, even if it is emotionally priceless. AITA for refusing to let anyone wear the dress, and for standing my ground so firmly. AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée wear my late mother's wedding dress and allegedly ruining the family legacy, even though no one cared about the dress until now. My mom passed away 6 years ago, and before she died, she left me her wedding dress. She didn't leave it to me because I was the only daughter or because she wanted me to wear it. She left it to me because I'm the one who cared about preserving her things. I'm the sentimental one. I'm the one who helped her catalog family photos, the one who listened to her stories about how she'd altered the dress herself, and the one who promised I'd keep it safe. She knew I might never get married, and she told me it didn't matter. She wanted me to decide what happened to it. Fast forward to now. My older brother, Evan, is getting married to his fiancée, Kelsey. We are cordial, but I wouldn't say we're close. She and Evan live 2 states away, and I've only spent time with her at holidays and a couple of family trips. She's fine, I guess, but I've always felt like she had a bit of a habit of treating my things like community property. The first time she visited our childhood home, she asked if she could take my mom's favorite mixing bowls because they fit her kitchen aesthetic better. She wasn't rude, just presumptive, and it rubbed me the wrong way. I said no then, too. 3 months ago, at a family dinner, Kelsey brought up the wedding dress. I hadn't even known she knew about it, but apparently Evan mentioned it. She said she'd love to honor Mom by wearing the dress and that it would save her money on a gown. I told her I appreciated the sentiment, but the dress wasn't up for loan. I didn't want it altered or risked. It's very old and fragile, and honestly, it's one of the few things that still feels like Mom to me. I said I wasn't comfortable with anyone wearing it. The table got awkwardly quiet, and my brother looked surprised. He said something like, "Come on, it would mean a lot." But I stood firm. My dad backed me up, saying Mom left it to me specifically and that my decision should be respected. Kelsey didn't push it then. She just sat back, smiled politely, and said she understood. I thought that was the end of it. It was not. A few weeks later, I started getting texts from Evan insisting I reconsider. He said Kelsey had always dreamed of wearing something with family significance, and that she was hurt I didn't trust her with the dress. He said she promised not to alter it except for temporary adjustments, and that she'd pay for any cleaning or preservation afterward. I told him I wasn't debating it. The answer was still no. That's when the guilt tripping started. Evan said Mom would have wanted to share a dress. He said I was being controlling and selfish. I reminded him of Mom's actual words and the conversations we had about the dress. He dismissed that and told me I was twisting Mom's intentions to justify hoarding something that should belong to the whole family. Then Kelsey's mother got involved. She sent me a message saying she was heartbroken on behalf of Kelsey because Kelsey had apparently pictured herself walking down the aisle in that dress since the first time she heard about it. She said I was denying Kelsey the chance to feel connected to the family she is joining. That message made me angry, but I kept my reply short and polite. Still no. Things escalated this past weekend. Evan and Kelsey came into town and invited me to coffee. I thought maybe they wanted to talk things out, but as soon as we sat down, Kelsey pulled out a folder with printouts from a bridal tailor. She had sketches showing how the dress could be updated to look more modern. She explained every alteration in great detail while I sat there staring at her like she was speaking a different language. She wanted to shorten the sleeves, adjust the hem, remove the lace collar, and open up the back. The dress would be unrecognizable. When she finished, she looked at me expectantly and said I'd feel better once I imagined how beautiful it would be. I told them no again and said that trying to redesign my mother's dress behind my back was disrespectful. Evan snapped. He said I wasn't being reasonable, that I was making this harder than it needed to be, and that I was punishing Kelsey for wanting to be part of the family. I told him my relationship with Mom wasn't a costume for Kelsey to wear. They both got offended and left. Now I'm apparently the villain of the entire extended family group chat. My aunt said I was gatekeeping grief. My cousin said I should let the dress live on. One of my uncles said I was just being dramatic because I haven't found anyone to marry yet. That one hurt more than I want to admit. My dad is on my side, but he hates conflict and the whole situation is stressing him out. A couple of my friends think I'm completely right, and a couple think I should just let Kelsey wear it because it's just a dress. But it's not just a dress to me. It's one of the last tangible pieces of my mother's life. And even if it weren't, it was left to me. I don't understand how that's become controversial. Still, with so many people piling on, I'm starting to wonder if keeping it is coming across as petty or possessive. Maybe I'm too close to it to see clearly. Maybe other people truly do think it's unfair to refuse. AITA for not letting my brother's fiancée wear my late mother's wedding dress, even though she claims I'm depriving her of a family connection. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's surprise vow renewal after realizing the real surprise was me paying for it. So I'm a 34-year-old guy who has always had a rocky relationship with my older sister, Dana. Growing up, she was the princess and I was the designated problem solver. If she needed something, I was expected to drop everything. Our parents never said that outright, but the pattern was obvious. Still, I try to be supportive because, well, family. Dana got married 10 years ago in a huge wedding paid for by our parents. It was beautiful, expensive, and orchestrated exactly how she wanted. I was the best man, which already caused a weird dynamic since her husband literally had brothers, but she wanted me in the spotlight next to her. I let it go because it seemed important to her. Fast forward to now. I'm financially comfortable after years of grinding in a tech job. I don't flaunt it, but I also don't hide it. I know for a fact my sister and her husband keep track of what I earn because every few months they make comments about my salary. Stuff like must be nice, and if I made that much, I'd never worry again. It's awkward, but I ignore it. 2 months ago, Dana invited me to what she called a small family dinner because she had big news. I assumed maybe they were expecting a baby. When we all arrived, she stood up dramatically and announced they were planning a surprise vow renewal for their 10th anniversary. Everyone clapped. I did too, until she said the next sentence. She told everyone I had generously offered to handle the venue costs as my gift to them. I literally choked on my drink. My parents immediately turned to me with the proud look parents give when their kids do something wholesome. Her in-laws were thanking me. My sister winked like we were sharing some secret joke. Meanwhile, I was sitting there trying not to explode. After a moment of stunned silence, I said I had not offered anything and had never even heard about this renewal. Dana laughed and said I was just being modest. She kept talking over me and describing the venue she had already penciled in under my name. I repeated myself more firmly. No, I was not paying. The atmosphere changed instantly. She froze. My mom whispered my name like I had just revealed a family scandal. Dana's husband muttered something about me being unreliable. My sister, of course, cried. She said she had already told everyone I'd pay because she wanted their renewal to feel as special as the wedding and assumed I'd be happy to support that. I asked her why she assumed that, since she had never asked me. She said asking would have made it awkward, and she wanted it to feel like a gift from my heart. A gift she pre-planned, announced publicly, and tried to lock me into. Sure, the dinner ended horribly. I left early, angry but trying to keep my cool. The next day, my mom called to tell me I had embarrassed Dana beyond belief and that the reasonable thing would be to just pay so this drama would end. For context, the venue is absurdly expensive, like enough to cover a down payment on a small condo. This wasn't a symbolic token gift. This was a financial commitment that would actually affect my life. I told Mom I wasn't paying. She said she understood, but I could have handled it privately. I pointed out that I tried, and Dana kept talking over me. Mom just sighed. Over the next week, Dana sent me massive paragraphs about how I had humiliated her. She said she couldn't go through with the vow renewal now because the venue already knew she couldn't pay. Then she added that if the renewal didn't happen, she'd always remember that as the moment I abandoned her. Let me be clear. I've helped Dana so many times financially. Not huge amounts, but enough that it's become expected. I've paid for her car repairs twice. I covered part of vacation when she said she couldn't afford it. I never complained. But this was different. About a week after the dinner, I got another message, but this time from her husband. He didn't bother with guilt. He just sent a screenshot of the venue price and said, "You literally make more than this in a month. Why are you being selfish?" That was the moment something clicked. I blocked him and muted Dana. I didn't speak to them for 3 weeks. Then my mom called to tell me the vow renewal was still happening, but with a cheaper venue, though it was scaled down, and Dana was heartbroken. She also said Dana assumed I'd still come and that we should all move past the misunderstanding. At this point, I realized if I showed up, everyone would whisper about how I caused the downsizing. If I didn't show up, I'd be accused of holding a grudge. I texted Dana directly, keeping it calm. I said I loved her, but would not be attending something she tried to manipulate me into funding. She responded with a single message. "Fine. Don't come. Just know you ruined everything." My parents think I'm overreacting. Some friends think my absence is petty, but my best friend says it's the first healthy boundary I've set with her in decades. Still, I feel conflicted. It is a family milestone. But I can't shake the feeling that attending would send the message that she can treat me however she wants, and I'll still show up smiling. So, AITA for refusing to attend after refusing to pay, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé redo my kitchen after he accidentally destroyed it during a weekend visit. A few months ago, my younger sister got engaged to a guy I'll call Brad. Brad works in construction and is the sort of person who thinks every conversation is an invitation for him to explain how he could fix your life with a power drill. I never minded him, exactly, but I also never loved how he talked to me like I was incapable of understanding basic home maintenance, just because I'm a single mom who bought a small but solid fixer-upper. When they asked if they could stay with me for a weekend to save money during a wedding planning trip, I said yes. My son was at his dad's, I had a few days off, and I figured we'd grill, talk wedding details, and enjoy some low-key sibling time. I even cleaned the guest room thoroughly and bought the fancy coffee my sister likes. Brad walked into my house for the first time, and before even greeting me properly, he scanned my kitchen with the face of a disappointed home inspector. He made comments like, "Oh, that's an interesting choice for backsplash," or, "These cabinets are actually pretty outdated." My sister apologized for him, and I shrugged it off. Annoying, but manageable. The second morning of their visit, I woke up to what sounded like construction work. Actual construction work. I thought maybe I was imagining it, but when I stepped into the hallway, I smelled sawdust. I followed the noise to my kitchen and almost screamed. Brad had removed 2 cabinet doors, unscrewed half of the lower cabinets, and was in the process of ripping out a section of countertop. My countertop, the one I paid good money for and was perfectly happy with. Debris was everywhere. My sister was sitting at the table looking miserable, saying she had tried to stop him. I lost it. I yelled something along the lines of, "What the hell are you doing?" Brad looked up totally unbothered and said, "Relax. I'm doing you a favor. This setup is terrible. I'm giving you a free update." I told him I had never asked for this, and he needed to stop immediately. His response was, "You don't know what you're doing with a kitchen like this. I'm making it functional." He actually expected praise. I told him to pack his things and get out. My sister tried to mediate, but I was furious and frankly shocked because it wasn't a misunderstanding. He wasn't trying to repair anything. He was trying to remodel my kitchen because he thought it wasn't up to his standards. They left, but the damage was extensive. I had to call an actual contractor to fix what he'd undone. The estimate was painful. I sent the bill to Brad and my sister because I felt it was only fair they cover the cost of returning my kitchen to the state it was in before his unsolicited renovation. Brad refused, saying I should be grateful because he improved the bones of the layout and that I should pay for the rest of the remodel he started. My sister cried on the phone, torn between defending him and admitting he'd screwed up. I ended up paying the contractor myself because my kitchen was half unusable, but I told my sister that Brad was not allowed in my home again, under any circumstances. She insisted I was blowing things out of proportion and that Brad was only trying to help. I told her that help only counts when someone asks for it, and her fiancé had crossed a massive boundary. Things have gotten worse since then. My sister told our parents, and they're divided. My mom sides with me, saying Brad was way out of line. My dad, a retired carpenter, thinks Brad was dumb but meant well, and argues that banning him from the house is extreme. My sister is furious because she wanted to host a bridal shower at my place, but I said absolutely not if Brad was coming. Brad has been telling extended family members that I disrespected him and his expertise, and now some cousins are messaging me about how I overreacted to a misunderstanding. They keep saying I should have just let him finish since he was working for free. No one seems to care that I never wanted or consented to any remodel, free or not. My son, who is 12, thinks the whole thing is hilarious and refers to Brad as the kitchen bandit, but the drama has been exhausting. My sister still wants me in the wedding, but we haven't spoken in a couple of weeks, and she hinted that it would be easier on everyone if I apologized to her fiancé, so we can put this behind us. I told her I wasn't apologizing for being angry about someone demolishing part of my house without permission. Now I'm wondering if my reaction was too harsh. I did yell. I did kick them out. I did refuse to let him come back. I did insist they pay a bill they refused to acknowledge. And part of me wonders if I should have handled things calmer for the sake of family harmony. But the other part of me keeps remembering the sight of my countertop hanging half-detached, while Brad cheerfully expected gratitude for what he insisted was his professional generosity. He never once acknowledged that he did something wrong. Not one apology, just entitlement. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiance come back to my house after he destroyed part of my kitchen as a favor, and for sending them the bill for the repairs. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister move into my house, even though she says I owe her for our childhood. I'm 32 and own a modest but comfortable 3-bedroom house with my husband. We don't have kids yet, but we're planning to start trying next year. The 3rd bedroom is currently my office. I work remotely as a project coordinator and need a dedicated workspace. My husband also uses the room occasionally for late-night calls with his team overseas. It isn't a luxury space, but it's essential for both of our jobs. My younger sister, 27, has always had a complicated relationship with responsibility. Growing up, our single mom worked 2 jobs. I was the older, dependable sibling who did chores, helped with homework, and sometimes even managed a grocery list. My sister wasn't malicious or bad, just the type who drifted through life with the expectation that someone would pick up after her. In high school, she'd forget assignments, skip class, and beg me to cover for her. I did, but I resented it. When we both moved out, I went to college, then straight into work. She bounced between temp jobs and roommates until finally settling with a boyfriend last year. That relationship recently imploded. Apparently he cheated, things blew up, and she moved out on short notice. I sympathize, of course, but it's worth noting this is the 4th living situation she's lost in 5 years, each one ending because someone else got fed up. 2 weeks ago, she called crying, saying she needed somewhere to stay just for a month or 2. I told her I'd think about it and talk to my husband. He was hesitant, and honestly, so was I. My sister can be draining. She leaves dishes everywhere, forgets rent, takes food without asking, and has a knack for turning every small misfortune into a household crisis. But I still wanted to be kind, so I suggested she might stay temporarily if she agreed to some boundaries, a timeline, expectations for cleanliness, and a contribution to utilities. She didn't like that. She told me I sounded cold and corporate, but she begrudgingly said she'd think about it. A few days later, she showed up at my door without warning with 2 giant suitcases, 3 trash bags, and a cat I didn't know she owned. When I opened the door, she started dragging her things in like we had already agreed. I told her no, she needed to wait. We hadn't settled anything, and I needed to prepare if she was going to stay. The cat alone would require adjusting because my husband is mildly allergic. She immediately burst into tears and accused me of abandoning her when she needed me most. She said she didn't have money for a storage unit and had nowhere to go. I reminded her I had never agreed to take her in yet. She said, loudly enough that my neighbor across the street heard, that I was selfish and ungrateful. She said she sacrificed so much for me growing up. This is what caught me completely off guard because as far as I remember, I did most of the sacrificing. She said she endured my bossiness and pressure as a teen and that I owe her a place to stay now. That made no sense to me, but she was hysterical and escalating. My husband stepped in and calmly told her she couldn't move in that day and needed to leave her things outside and step back while we talked. She refused and tried to push past him. He blocked her without touching her, which made her scream that he was threatening her. At this point, my anxiety was through the roof. I told her she had to leave and that we'd discuss possible options later, but she needed to leave now. She refused, so my husband said he would call the non-emergency line if she didn't step out. She finally stormed off, dragging her bags furiously down the driveway. The cat carrier swung so violently, I worried the poor animal would get hurt. My phone blew up for days afterward. She sent long messages about how I was choosing a man and a house over family, and that I must have forgotten everything she supposedly did for me. She also texted my mom, who then called me, confused and panicked. My sister told her I kicked her out on the street. I explained the entire story, and my mom said she understood, but she also gently urged me to reconsider taking her in. My mom lives in a retirement community where guests can only stay short-term, so she can't house my sister. She said she worries my sister will end up bouncing between couches, losing her job again, or falling into another unhealthy relationship without some stability. I told my mom I understand the concern, but my sister's pattern isn't random bad luck. She chronically refuses to take responsibility, then claims victimhood when reality catches up to her. I've helped her many times, including loaning her money she has never paid back. At some point, there has to be a boundary. Still, I feel guilty. She's family. She's struggling. It feels cruel to shut the door on her, even temporarily. But the way she tried to force her way in, the emotional manipulation, the accusations, and her total disregard for my marriage and home make me think letting her stay would be chaos. My husband is supportive, but left the decision to me because it's my sister. He said he'll back me no matter what, but reminded me that if she moves in, the situation will likely spiral and we'll be trapped in our own home. Some of my friends say I should hold firm and not let her bulldoze me. Others say family is family, and I can't expect her to magically fix her life without support. But I've given her support for years, and not once has she shown long-term improvement. Every time she lands somewhere stable, she self-sabotages, and someone else has to clean up the aftermath. I don't want my home to become the next aftermath site. So now I'm stuck wondering, am I the jerk for refusing her even though she's in crisis? Should I have at least let her stay for a week or two? Should I have handled the door incident differently? Or did she cross a line by assuming she could just move in and manipulating our emotions when we hesitated? AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancée hold their entire wedding at my house after I offered only the backyard? I'm 34 and live in the old family home, a large Victorian that my grandparents left to me because I was the only one willing to take on the repairs. I spent years fixing it up. It's beautiful now, but it's also my sanctuary. I work from home, keep to myself, and I'm admittedly protective of the place because I poured so much time, sweat, and money into it. My brother, 29, got engaged last year to Sophie, who is sweet but very intense about aesthetics. When they were looking for a wedding venue, prices shocked them, and during a family dinner, my mom casually mentioned how gorgeous my backyard looked since I had redone the garden. Sophie's eyes lit up like a spotlight. She asked if they could maybe host the ceremony back there. I said I'd think about it. I wasn't thrilled, but I love my brother and figured a short ceremony wouldn't be the end of the world. After a week, I told him yes, as long as it was only the ceremony, no more than 40 guests, and they bring their own seating and cleanup crew. They thanked me profusely. I thought that was settled. A month later, I got an email. Not a text. An actual long email with attachments, diagrams, and a mood board. It detailed their vision for the wedding, which apparently had evolved drastically. They were now planning the ceremony in the backyard, cocktail hour on my porch, dinner reception in my dining room and living room, dancing in what they labeled the Heritage Hall, my front parlor, a photo booth upstairs in the library suite, and brunch the next morning in my kitchen. Also, up to 120 guests. I called my brother immediately and asked what the hell this was. He acted like it was just a natural extension of what I'd already agreed to. He said since my house has so much character, they realized it was the perfect all-in-one venue. He said the rental companies were excited to work with my unique space, as if I owed them something for the compliment. I told him flat out no. I said the ceremony only was already a big concession for me, and there was no universe where I was letting over 100 strangers roam around my entire home. He got annoyed and said I was being dramatic, that this was family, and that he thought I'd be honored to have my home be the centerpiece of their big day. I told him I'd be honored to let them use the backyard for 30 minutes, not run an event center. Then Sophie called. She started crying immediately. She said she had already sent out preliminary invitations to vendors with my address. She said the house was part of the theme, which was apparently vintage romantic heritage, and without the inside of the home, the whole wedding would look disjointed. I told her I didn't consent to any of that. She said I was ruining her dream. I told her kindly but firmly that my answer was still no. Cue the family explosion. My mom said I shouldn't have offered the backyard if I wasn't willing to fully participate. My dad said he understood my feelings, but also thought I should compromise a little, which I pointed out I'd already done. My sister said I was acting like a museum curator guarding artifacts, which, honestly, yes, some of them are antiques and also my personal belongings. My brother sent a long text saying he felt utterly betrayed, and that if I loved him, I'd make this sacrifice for him just once. I replied that love doesn't mean allowing your home to be taken over for a multi-day event you never agreed to. He hasn't spoken to me since. Then things got worse. A few days ago, I came home from running errands and found Sophie and 2 event planners on my porch. She had convinced my mom to give her the spare key that I keep in the kitchen at my parents' house in case of emergencies. They had let themselves in and were taking pictures, measuring walls, and discussing where to place bars, dance floors, and floral installations. I lost it. I told them to get out immediately. One of the planners tried to argue that they were on a tight schedule and had already begun designing layouts. I said I didn't care, they were trespassing. Sophie started crying again, shouting that I was humiliating her in front of professionals. I said she humiliated herself by breaking into my house. Then I called my parents and demanded an explanation. My mom said she didn't think it was a big deal since Sophie was basically family. I told her the key was for emergencies, and planning a fantasy wedding inside my home was not an emergency. I changed all the locks the same day. Now the entire family is against me except for one cousin. My brother sent me a scathing message saying I destroyed the last chance for our family to have a wedding that felt special. He also said if I had just agreed to the expanded plan early on, none of this would have happened. Sophie posted a vague rant on social media about people who pretend to be supportive until their selfishness shows, and some extended relatives are messaging me asking what happened. I'm standing firm. I offered the backyard for a small ceremony. They tried to colonize my entire home, invited vendors without permission, and then trespassed after I said no. I feel completely justified, but the number of people mad at me has made me question whether I'm missing something. AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancée use my wedding venue after their own wedding plans fell apart, and everyone insists on being petty. I'm 31 and getting married next spring to my partner of 7 years. We booked our venue almost a year and a half in advance because it's incredibly popular. A renovated estate with indoor gardens, an antique greenhouse, and a reception hall that looks like something out of a movie. It wasn't cheap, and because we booked it so far ahead, we locked in a lower rate. We've built our entire wedding around this place. My younger brother, Ben, is 27. He and his fiancée, Kelsey, got engaged last summer. At first, they planned a simple backyard wedding at her parents' place. They made it a whole personality thing about being low maintenance and not buying into the wedding industrial complex. But then they decided they wanted something more curated, as Kelsey put it. They started looking for venues, but because they waited too long, everything decent in their price range was already booked. A couple of months ago, their original backyard plan fell apart when Kelsey's parents had to postpone major repairs on their house, including redoing the deck and removing a big old tree that had started leaning dangerously. Suddenly, the yard wasn't safe or usable for a big gathering. This is where things started to go off the rails. They called me one night, very casual sounding, asking about my wedding venue. I didn't think much of it at first. I assumed they were just curious or maybe wanted vendor recommendations. But then Kelsey asked if we'd be willing to swap dates with them or just share the venue on the same weekend since they were having trouble finding a place. I actually laughed at first because I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. They wanted me to move my wedding date to accommodate theirs. My fiancé and I already sent save the dates. Our vendors are locked. My future in-laws already planned their travel from out of the country. My fiancé's sister is pregnant and specifically told us the window she could travel. We paid deposits on everything. I said no, politely at first. I told them it wasn't feasible. They pushed harder, saying it was only fair because they were in a tight spot. Ben added that they'd only need the venue for the ceremony and could maybe do a staggered thing. As in, we'd have our rehearsal or set up in the morning, then move everything so they could get married in the afternoon, and then we'd come back and finish setting up afterward. I thought he was joking again. He wasn't. I said absolutely not. It was unreasonable and impossible, and I wasn't going to derail a year and a half of planning. They sounded annoyed, but we ended the call. A week later, my mom called and said she wanted to talk about me helping my brother. I told her I wasn't moving my wedding. She said she understood, but then added that maybe I could at least let them use the venue the day before my wedding. Like literally the day before. The venue is booked for us starting the morning before our wedding for setup, decorating, rehearsal, photos, and vendor coordination. I explained that. She said we could work around it. I told her no again. Then my brother and Kelsey launched a group text with several family members, framing the situation like I was gatekeeping a venue out of spite. They said I was being selfish, and that since they aren't as financially well off, I should be more flexible. Mind you, we're hardly rich. We've been saving for years. But apparently because our wedding is nicer, that means we should share it? Kelsey wrote a long message about how this was supposed to be a beautiful time for both couples, and how I should want to support them instead of creating obstacles. She said weddings aren't territorial property, and that if I didn't want to move dates, then the least I could do was let them borrow the aesthetic for their photos. Borrow the aesthetic. Like my wedding was a craft project. At this point, I stopped responding. My fiancé stepped in and told them to stop. They didn't. They kept pushing. Finally, he told them point blank that the answer was no and would remain no, and if they kept harassing us, they wouldn't be invited to the wedding at all. My mom said we were overreacting. My dad stayed out of it, but told me privately to keep the peace, which is his usual stance for everything. My aunt called me to say she understood my brother's panic because weddings are stressful. Several cousins chimed in saying we were being too rigid and that it's just one day. Except it's not one day. It's my wedding. It's our planning, our money, our time, our vendors, our guests, our everything. A few days later, Ben and Kelsey sent one more message saying they'd found another venue option, but that it was more expensive and smaller than they wanted. They ended the message with, "We hope you're satisfied." Since then, my family keeps acting awkward. Some are clearly siding with them. Others aren't saying anything, which somehow feels worse. My mom hinted that she hopes I'll apologize soon because family is more important than pride. I asked her why my brother isn't being told the same thing. She said, well, he's younger and this is his first big event, which made absolutely no sense, and I ended the call. My fiancé thinks my family is being ridiculous and that I shouldn't give this any more emotional energy. But now part of me is wondering if I could have handled it differently. Maybe I was too blunt. Maybe I should have tried harder to help. But at the same time, I can't imagine asking someone to move their entire wedding for me. The worst part is I know this is going to hang over the wedding day. I know there's going to be tension. I know someone will bring it up. And I hate that they've managed to make me dread something I should be excited about. So, AITA for refusing to give up or share my wedding venue with my brother, even though it caused a massive family rift. AITA for kicking my brother and his fiancée out of my wedding after they tried to hijack it into a surprise gender reveal. I feel ridiculous even typing that sentence out, but here we are. My wedding was 3 months ago, and apparently the drama is still going strong because half my family is siding with my brother, claiming I overreacted, ruined his big moment, and humiliated him in front of everyone. Meanwhile, I think he tried to pull one of the most selfish stunts I've ever witnessed. I'll lay it all out. For context, I'm 32F. My husband is 34M. My brother, Kyle, is 29M, and his fiancée, Jenna, is 28F. They got pregnant earlier this year, and everyone is very excited. I'm genuinely happy for them. But they have gotten extremely carried away with the main character energy of expecting a baby. The pregnancy has become the centerpiece of every conversation, event, or family gathering, whether it's relevant or not. I've tried to be patient because I get that they're excited first-time parents, but they've crossed boundaries before. For example, at our engagement party, they announced to everyone that they just picked baby names and passed around cards asking people to vote. At my bridal shower, they showed up late and made a big entrance holding ultrasound prints. It annoyed me, but I let it slide because it didn't derail the event. But I did politely tell them afterward that I was uncomfortable with them using my events to spotlight their own stuff. They apologized, or at least said they understood. Turns out they did not understand. My wedding was a medium-sized ceremony and reception. I'm not an over-the-top wedding person, but it was still a big deal to me. We spent 2 years planning it, saving for it, making sure everyone would feel welcome. The theme was very classic and simple. No gimmicks, no fireworks, no confetti, just a normal, calm, happy day. The trouble started during the reception. Dinner had finished, speeches were done, and we were moving into the dancing portion. My husband and I just finished our first dance. Suddenly, I noticed people murmuring and looking toward the head table. I turned around and saw Jenna standing on a chair, holding a black balloon the size of a beach ball. Kyle had a pin in his hand and yelled something like, "Everyone gather around. We have a special surprise." I froze. My first thought was, they cannot be serious. My second thought was, they are absolutely serious. Before I could even move or speak, Kyle launched into a speech about how life milestones are meant to be shared and that today was the perfect day to reveal the gender of their baby since everyone important was already together. Then he gestured to the balloon like he was hosting a game show. People actually began to crowd around them. I beelined straight to them. I told Kyle firmly but quietly to stop. He grinned and said something like, "Come on, it'll only take a minute." I said no, this was not the time or place, and he needed to sit down and put the balloon away. Kyle rolled his eyes and said I was being dramatic. Jenna chimed in and said they thought it would be a fun surprise and that it wouldn't take away from anything. I told them it absolutely would take away from something, namely my wedding. At that moment, Kyle lifted the pin again. A few guests were encouraging him. I lost it. I grabbed the balloon out of Jenna's hands. I didn't pop it, but I told them if they didn't stop immediately, they needed to leave. Kyle said something like, "You can't kick family out of your wedding." I said, "Watch me." They accused me of being jealous and controlling. I said they were being unbelievably disrespectful. It escalated into a whispered but not really whispered argument. Finally, my husband stepped in and told them they needed to go cool off somewhere else because they were causing a scene. Kyle snapped that if they left, they weren't coming back. My husband said, "Okay." So they left. But of course it didn't end there. Half an hour later, my mom pulled me aside and angrily asked why I had humiliated Kyle. She said a gender reveal wasn't a big deal and I should have just let them do it. My aunt chimed in later, saying I ruined a beautiful moment. Some guests were confused about what happened and thought I overreacted. Others said they couldn't believe Kyle tried to take over my wedding. The next day, Kyle posted on social media about how some people don't support his journey into fatherhood and can't handle sharing the spotlight. He didn't name me, but the implication was obvious. Some people commented supportive things, others messaged me asking what actually happened. Since then, Kyle and Jenna have doubled down. They say I embarrassed them, ruined their memory of my wedding, and made them feel unwelcome in the family. They've told everyone that I threw a tantrum over something harmless. I've tried explaining calmly that it was wildly inappropriate. They say it wasn't inappropriate, just surprising. My dad is on my side. Most friends are on my side. But several family members keep saying I should have just let it happen so as not to cause drama. That confuses me because the drama wouldn't have happened if they hadn't tried to take over my wedding in the first place. So now I'm stuck wondering, did I go too far? Should I have handled it differently? Was kicking them out actually the wrong move? I still think that letting them go through with it would have been condoning incredibly rude behavior. But the blowback has made me question whether I escalated things by taking the balloon and confronting them so directly. AITA? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house, even though she claims I'm ruining their wedding plans. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Lily, 28F, who has always been a bit dramatic and prone to guilt tripping. Our relationship has mostly been okay, but she tends to exaggerate things when she doesn't get her way. She's been engaged to her fiancé, Tom, 30M, for about 8 months. While I like Tom, I don't exactly feel that warm family bond with him yet, mostly because of some odd behaviors I've noticed and some boundary issues that make me uncomfortable. A few months ago, Lily told me she and Tom were having a small wedding in our hometown. They wanted it to be really intimate, just family and a few close friends. She also mentioned that some of Tom's family lives out of state and might need a place to stay. I thought nothing of it first, assuming she meant her parents and siblings. But then she texted me saying that Tom would like to stay at my apartment for a few nights leading up to the wedding because it's closer to the venue and cheaper than hotels. This immediately raised a red flag for me. I live alone in a small 2-bedroom apartment. I work long hours and my routine is really strict. I enjoy hosting people occasionally, but having someone stay in my personal space for multiple nights right before a major family event felt invasive. I told Lily that I wasn't comfortable with Tom staying over, explaining that I wasn't trying to be difficult, but that I value my privacy and needed my apartment to be a quiet space before the wedding. I offered to help her find nearby hotels instead. Lily responded with what I can only describe as a guilt-laden text essay. She said that by not letting Tom stay with me, I was being selfish, destroying the wedding vibe, and making it harder for him to feel included with the family. She mentioned that the hotel options were too expensive for them and implied that I didn't love my sister enough to support her big day. I tried to calmly reiterate my position, but she kept escalating, bringing our parents into it. My mom called me to ask why I wouldn't let him stay, and even though I explained my reasoning, she said I should just compromise a little for your sister. The tension built over the next few weeks. Lily started dropping hints at family gatherings, sighing loudly when she saw me, and making comments about how nobody in the family ever helped her out like I could. One night, she texted me at 11 p.m., saying that Tom's flight had been canceled and that he had nowhere to stay tonight, so she expected me to host him for at least one night. I told her again that I couldn't. This time she accused me of actively ruining their plans and said she didn't understand why I was being so difficult over one person staying in my home. A week before the wedding, she sent me a long voice note crying about how stressful it had been to plan everything, how unfair it was that I wasn't helping, and that she didn't know if she could forgive me if I didn't make this work. I listened and stayed calm, but I didn't change my mind. I even offered to drive Tom from the airport to the hotel myself, so it wasn't like I was refusing to help entirely, just refusing to give up my space. On the day of the wedding, things got even more dramatic. Lily told me that Tom had to check into a hotel far away and that he was very upset with me, which apparently caused a small argument between him and her in front of our family. During the reception, Lily made a few passive-aggressive comments like, "I guess some people just can't help family when it really matters," and even my mom suggested that maybe I should have let him stay just this once. Since then, I've had very little contact with Lily. Tom doesn't seem to mind me personally, but the wedding tension has left a lingering awkwardness. I keep wondering if I handled this wrong. On the one hand, I didn't feel comfortable compromising my privacy for multiple nights with someone I don't know that well. On the other hand, I realized it was a stressful time for her, and maybe she expected more familial support. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my apartment, even though she claims I ruined their wedding plans? Additional context that might matter. I offered other ways to help, including driving him, picking up groceries, and helping with wedding errands. My apartment is small, and having Tom stay there would have disrupted my routine completely. I have a history of anxiety and need my space to decompress, especially during high-stress periods. Lily has a pattern of exaggerating situations to get what she wants, but this is the first time I've said no to something wedding-related. I did not want to set a precedent of letting guests stay in my apartment without my consent, as I often have friends in similar situations and boundaries are important to me. I'm feeling torn because the family tension is real, and I hate that my refusal caused arguments, but I also feel like my boundaries are valid and reasonable. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of childhood promise? So this is going to be a long one, but I'll try to keep it as clear as possible. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F. Growing up, Emily and I were really close despite our age difference. Our parents had a tendency to favor her a bit more, but I didn't mind because I genuinely love spending time with her. One thing that became a running theme in our family was that I always felt like I had to be the responsible one, while she could get away with things because she was the baby, but we were very close nonetheless. When Emily was 10, she started dating this boy, Alex, who was 13 at the time. I was 13 then, and Alex became part of the friend group for both of us. I didn't have a crush on him or anything, but Emily was smitten and I supported her. Over the years, Alex became like a brother figure to me too, just someone I could confide in when Emily wasn't around. Fast forward to Emily being 18 and me being 21, Emily and Alex have been dating for 8 years. I had just moved to a new city for work and wasn't around as much. One weekend, Emily and I were talking on the phone, and she started freaking out about her upcoming graduation party and that Alex hadn't formally asked my parents for permission to date seriously. I laughed, thinking she was joking, but she wasn't. She asked me if I could help her figure out how to talk to them, because apparently they weren't going to respond well. That's when I blurted out something that's haunted me ever since. I told her, half joking, half serious, you don't need to worry about them. Promise me that if you ever want to marry Alex, you'll come to me first and we'll figure it out together. I meant it, as in I wanted to be part of the decision, not like some magical veto power. Emily, in her typical dramatic fashion, said, I swear I will. You're my big sister. I'll always come to you first. Years passed, and life went on. Emily and Alex stayed together. I dated other people, moved across the country, started my career, all that. But I always remember that promise. It wasn't something I consciously thought about every day, but it was there in the back of my mind. Now, to the present. Emily got engaged to Alex a year ago. When she called me, she said, Big sis, you're my maid of honor, and I need you to help me with all of the wedding planning. I was thrilled at first. I really wanted to be part of it. But as the planning went on, I started noticing some red flags. First, Emily wanted me to approve every detail, which I understood. But then she started making decisions that conflicted with my own beliefs and comfort levels, like requiring me to wear an outfit I literally couldn't fit into comfortably, and scheduling pre-wedding events during times I couldn't travel. I brushed it off because I didn't want to be the negative one. The real issue came when she announced the guest list. Alex's family is huge, and they're very traditional. My parents, who are generally very chill, made it clear they wouldn't attend the ceremony if certain people were invited. Emily completely ignored this and said, We're not excluding anyone for anyone. This is our day. At first, I tried to mediate, but Emily got really defensive and said I was overthinking everything and that she wanted me to trust her judgment. I started feeling like the promise I had in mind from when we were teenagers was being trampled. Then a few weeks ago, Emily and I had a fight over the vows. She had written something that referenced family drama and hinted at me in a not-so-subtle way. I asked her if she could remove the parts that could embarrass me in front of her future in-laws and my own parents. She refused, saying, It's my wedding, and I'm not censoring my feelings for anyone. At that moment, I realized that being involved in the wedding wasn't what I thought it would be. The promise I had in my mind when I was 21 was about being part of a big life decision together, not being stuck in a toxic, high-stress wedding planning situation that made me feel disrespected. So, I did something that shocked my family. I called Emily and told her I wouldn't attend the wedding. I explained that I felt hurt and that our dynamic didn't feel respectful anymore. She was furious. She accused me of breaking the promise she made to me as a teenager and said I was choosing myself over my family. My parents are upset too, though they said they understand my perspective. Alex is trying to stay neutral, which I appreciate, but Emily has basically stopped talking to me entirely. Family members are split. Some say that Emily should have checked with me out of respect because of the childhood promise. Others say that I'm being unreasonable and that I'm letting my personal discomfort ruin an important day for my sister. I feel like if I went, I'd be in the middle of drama, and it wouldn't be a positive experience for anyone. But at the same time, I can't shake the feeling that I'm breaking a promise that I made years ago, even if it was informal and made when we were teenagers. So Reddit. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding even though I made her swear a childhood promise to include me in her big life decisions. The emotional complexity is that I love my sister, but I also feel like she's not respecting boundaries I had hoped we would honor. I keep going back and forth between thinking I'm being selfish and thinking I'm protecting myself from unnecessary stress and resentment. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding because of how she treated me growing up. So a little background first. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F. Growing up, our relationship was complicated, to say the least. Our parents were relatively hands-off, which left a lot of our conflicts unresolved. Emily was always the favorite, at least in her eyes, and honestly, in the eyes of most of my extended family. She's always been charming, smart, and very manipulative when she wants to be. Me? I was quiet, studious, and prefer to stay out of drama. Because of this, I was constantly on the receiving end of her antics, which ranged from annoying to outright cruel. Example: when we were teenagers, she once convinced my parents that I was stealing her makeup. I got grounded for a week, even though I didn't touch a thing. Another time, she borrowed my laptop to do a school project and ended up deleting all my files. And while she occasionally apologized, the guilt I felt was always mine to carry. My parents tried to be fair, but it often felt like Emily's charisma overshadowed my side of the story. Fast forward to adulthood. Emily has always leaned on me financially for big moments, but it was always framed as a favor or a sisterly bond. For example, when she wanted to go to a European vacation with her friends, she asked me to lend her $3,000. I hesitated, but eventually I did it. When she got into a minor car accident shortly after, she didn't pay me back, claiming she had to cover her deductible and rent. That was fine, I thought, it happens. But when she asked me to co-sign her lease, I politely declined, citing past experiences and financial stability. She was offended, but I didn't let it get to me. Now here's where things escalated. Emily recently got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, who is genuinely lovely by all accounts. She called me and asked me to pay for a portion of her wedding, which is going to be pretty lavish. She framed it as part of the sisterly tradition because, according to her, I had always been close to her. She suggested I cover the flowers and decor, roughly $5,000. She said my contribution would guarantee an important role in the wedding, implying that if I didn't pay, my part in her big day would be diminished. I was shocked, not only because of the amount, but because I realized this was part of a pattern. Whenever Emily wanted something, she used guilt and a pretense of closeness to make it happen. I tried reasoning with her. I reminded her of all the times she borrowed money and never paid me back, and how she had belittled me as a kid and teenager. I told her I was not comfortable funding her wedding. She responded by crying on the phone, calling me selfish, and claiming I had always been jealous of her. She even brought up the time I got a promotion she didn't, saying it proved my insecurity. I told her I wasn't going to pay, and our conversation ended very tense. Later, she started messaging all our relatives, subtly implying that I was refusing to help her because I didn't care about her happiness. I got a few calls from extended family asking me to reconsider. Some even mentioned that I was acting like our parents by being unfair. I haven't spoken to her since, and honestly, I feel guilty because I know weddings are a big deal and people usually expect family support. But at the same time, I can't shake the feeling that this is not about family or love. It's about control and guilt tripping. I've spent years being the silent sufferer in our relationship, and now she's asking me to literally pay for her happiness. I've thought about compromising, like helping in a smaller, non-monetary way, but I worry that any contribution will just be another leverage point for her. I'm exhausted just thinking about the family drama that would ensue if I attend without paying. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding given our history and her behavior. AITA for confronting my sister over her insistence on ruining my wedding plans. I, 28F, have been planning my wedding for about a year now. My fiancé, Sam, 30M, and I have been together for 5 years, and we're finally at a point where we can comfortably plan the wedding we've always dreamed of. We decided on a small outdoor ceremony in a botanical garden with about 50 close family and friends. Nothing extravagant, just a beautiful day focused on our closest loved ones. My sister, Emily, 32F, has always been a little overbearing when it comes to my life choices, especially things like weddings, birthdays, and family events. She's never malicious, but she tends to insist that her opinions are more important than everyone else's. She's gotten away with it for years because our parents tend to side with her to avoid conflict. I love my sister, but her behavior can be exhausting, especially when it comes to major life events. About 6 months ago, I sent out save the dates to everyone, including Emily. She immediately started complaining about the venue, saying it was too small, too far away, and that there wasn't enough parking. I explained that we wanted a small wedding and that the venue was perfect for what we envisioned. She didn't drop it. Instead, she started suggesting alternative venues, caterers, and even officiants. Fast forward to a month ago, I finalized all the vendors, booked the florist, signed the contracts, and sent out invitations. That's when the real issue began. Emily told me that she couldn't attend unless we moved the wedding to a weekend she was free. She also suggested that Sam and I should get a bigger venue because people will be uncomfortable. I told her politely that the plans were finalized and that our wedding was about us, not convenience for every guest. She reacted badly. She started posting on social media about how unfair it was that I wasn't accommodating her and subtly criticized my choices in public posts. She even commented on my mother's post about the wedding, saying things like, "I hope she doesn't regret such a tiny, inconvenient wedding," which I found incredibly disrespectful. 2 weeks ago, she escalated further. She called me in tears, saying she didn't feel valued in the family because she wasn't being listened to regarding the wedding. She implied that if we didn't make changes, she wouldn't attend. I tried to reason with her, explaining that her attendance was important to me, but I couldn't change the plans at the last minute. She hung up on me after accusing me of being selfish. I reached out to my parents to ask for advice, hoping they would help mediate. My mom said that I should consider Emily's feelings and maybe make minor adjustments. My dad didn't say much, but seemed to side with Emily's perspective. I felt like I was being cornered. This wedding is supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and it felt like everyone was pressuring me to prioritize Emily's comfort over my own happiness and my fiancé's. A few days ago, Emily texted me again, this time with an ultimatum. Either we make the wedding bigger and move it to a date that suits her, or she wouldn't come and would reconsider her relationship with the family. At this point, I lost my patience. I wrote back a message explaining that I loved her, but the wedding plans are final, and that attending or not is her choice, but manipulating the situation to make me feel guilty is not acceptable. I also told her that if she continued to threaten to boycott events over her personal preferences, it would damage our relationship permanently. She responded by calling me selfish, cruel, and immature for not bending. She also started sending group texts to other family members, trying to get them to side with her. Some of my cousins and friends have messaged me privately saying they think I'm being reasonable and that she is overstepping, but my parents haven't taken a firm stance. The wedding is 3 weeks away, and Emily still hasn't said whether she will attend. I honestly don't want to uninvite her, but I also don't want to change anything last minute. Sam has been incredibly supportive, telling me that our wedding should be about us and not about trying to make everyone happy. My friends have been telling me that I am not in the wrong and that Emily is being controlling. Some of my relatives have hinted that maybe I should try harder to keep the peace, which makes me feel like if I bend, I'm rewarding her manipulative behavior. I feel stuck because I want to enjoy my wedding without unnecessary drama, but I also don't want to be seen as the bad sibling who is alienating family. I'm starting to worry that no matter what I do, someone will be upset. So, AITA for standing my ground and refusing to alter my wedding plans to accommodate my sister's demands. I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to punish her or exclude her. I just want to celebrate my day the way Sam and I envisioned, without giving in to ultimatums or threats. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.